What is up? Welcome, Whale family, to another episode of Blockchain Beats, where we explore the pioneering artists taking audio music to the next level of emerging tech and interactivity with NFTs. Today, we have our very special guest, BT. He's a Grammy-nominated composer, creative, and technologist whose relentless drive for innovation has helped shape genres and forge techniques that propel music and art into the future. I'm also a personal fan, so I'm really excited to be here with you today, Brian. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Oh, it's such an honor. I love this community. It's one of my favorite Discords. So yeah, it's like thrilling to be here, and also to I think the world of Whale Shark. I think what he's done in this whole space and for the whole community is just amazing. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here and talk about this. I'm in that last kind of dev, sprint push. We literally just minted our final pushed build, which I'll talk about. So you're like, a build? Wait a second, we're talking about NFTs. So, but yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, me too. And just for anyone who is not aware of your music and what you've done, you've been creating music for a long time. You've worked with some greats like Peter Gabriel and Tori Amos. But for those of us who don't know, would you just tell us a little bit about your musical background?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So, the simple kind of story about me is I'm a Grammy-nominated electronic music artist. I've been making electronic music since I was a kid. I've scored about 30 films, and I also wildly am a full-stack developer. So, started programming in Basic A as a kid, dating myself a bit, and actually tutored some of my dad's students in Cobalt, believe it or not. So I got the programming bug early, and I actually make music software as well, things like Stutter Edit. And so really this whole blockchain art thing is my absolute happy place. First, I see it having the ability to completely and totally democratize the dissemination of media in general, not just art and music. But secondly, the idea that it disintermediates the middleman is just incredible. I mean, what that means for, not just the arts, the financial system, but in the arts, it means the disintermediation of folks like, the legacy record labels. And so, yeah, it really is my happy place, because it's a marriage of all these things I love, which is visual expression, musical expression, and technology. So it's the coolest thing ever. I can't believe I'm alive for all of this. It's pretty remarkable.
I know, it's such a cool space, and everything is just moving so fast. But what I've loved the most about it is the communities that have emerged from it, from music, art, culture. It's just, if there's something that you enjoy, there's like a mini part of the metaverse that is its own universe in itself that you get to create and play, and there's still so much to be explored in it. It's like really exciting.
I love what you just said, Heather, too. And I think that is kind of one of the most important things about the entire blockchain art and media, so I mean, we're moving into everything from gaming, right, to visual art, to music, and kind of on every vector possible at once. But you said something so important there, that there are these beautiful little pockets of communities that rally around specific types of art, specific types of music, specific types of games. And I think that there's a why to that. So I think the why to that is the fact that, by virtue of the fact that things are becoming disintermediated, right, where there's not like the principal wagging their finger saying, this is a valid film, this is a valid album, this is a valid piece of art, that because creators are controlling their own output, it makes the world more beautiful, sound better, cooler to live in, and then people find these small pockets of communities, exactly what you're talking about, just by proxy the fact that artists are able to controlled their creative output in this space. It's freaking thrilling to see. It's unlike anything we've seen before. It really is.
Yeah, they're controlling their creative output, and then there are collectors that are, appreciating the value of their work and putting their money where their mouth is and supporting them. And it creates a feedback loop between the artist and the collectors, because there's that whole 10% commission that, the relationship that you develop with the collector as an artist and with the artist as a collector is mutually beneficial. It's like nothing is like that in traditional art.
You're absolutely right. And speaking of something like that, resourcing people of significance, it's, with great ideas that want to give back. I look at someone like Justin Blau, who was actually the person that, introduced me to some of these ideas. And I think about what he's going on to do, and now with Royal and this idea of turning songs into fractional ownership, almost like a DAW, and then giving, parts of the song to his community. It's like, these are the exact sort of, people that we want to empower, because it lifts everyone. So I love that there's this incredible benefactor, artist model that we haven't seen literally for like 150, 200 years, where, collectors are saying, wow, that's a valid idea. I want to see more of that. I'm going to encourage it. And like you said, they encourage it with resource. But I love seeing people like Blau and the artists too, just making, look at what Pac has just done. It's like, we're seeing works of art that we've never, I didn't imagine we would see this in my lifetime. Like I said, it's like, I sound like a broken record, but like, it just feels like every day is Christmas, that you get to make things for such an incredible emergent space where we're defining it in real time,
Yeah. And I have a sort of related question for you, going back in time, because, you started creating music and pioneered, trance and a lot that's going on in electronic dance music now. And at the time that you were creating that, like, did you have any idea that you were like at the precipice of something different? And like, does that compare to the new feeling that you're feeling now? Like, this is an exciting time?
What an incredible question. Nobody has asked me a question like that. I have to say, it's funny. I just did an interview with deadmau5 for CoinDesk, and we were talking, Joel and I were talking some about this, about kind of early days of electronic music, and that feeling at the beginning, so kind of post, this is, this would have been way before my time, but like post disco, right? So when we moved into house music and things began to happen in Chicago and Detroit, and those things began to come over to England, right? And that's kind of when my career started, and much of my career started over in England. And Joel and I were talking about this. I remember the feeling in those days of this kind of unbelievable feeling of anything is possible, right? There was no rules whatsoever to the music. The culture was being created in real time, event by event, record by record. And yeah, this feels really similar. That's an incredible parallel that I haven't thought of until you asked that question. It does feel like the early days of electronic music culture and rave culture, where there's this feeling of hope and optimism. And guess what? It worked out. It's become like a worldwide phenomenon. And that started from, us pulling cars out into literally cow pastures in England with speakers in the trunks of the car and having a rave until the sun came up. And, we created this beautiful culture that now has gone on to make millions and millions and millions of people happy on a daily basis. And this feels like the beginning of that. That's such a great parallel.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, being involved in dance music, I'm a DJ myself and really into drum and bass, and like that community really like opened up my whole world. And then coming into NFTs too, and crypto art as an artist is like, what is this? Like, it does feel like anything is possible, and it does feel like it's still just the beginning of it, even though it's kind of been around for NFTs, at least have been around since 2017, but
yeah,
like now starting to gain traction, and I'm just really excited about just a lot of people at your caliber coming into this space. We've got Tom Morello coming later to talk about his NFT drop, so it's going to expand further for sure.
There's no question about it. Hey, when Tom comes, I know Tom really well. Give him like a virtual hug from me. I'm so excited to hear about that. I'm gonna have to reach out to him and hear about what he's doing. Don't think I'm gonna leave that there, that you just doxed yourself that you're a drum and bass DJ. And now I need to know like a lot more about that, because I love drum and bass. It's like,
oh my God, we're gonna have to keep going.
Yeah, I need to hear more about that.
Amazing. And yeah, I'll let Tom know. And he's also doing the drop with Peter Moorbacher, who's a really great artist. So yeah, it's so cool who's been coming into the space and bringing attention to it. And you know, I forget what the saying is, but rising seas raise all ships, or whatever.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I was also curious, just for those who don't really know your sound, because I feel like you've put out so much music that transcends genre. It's not really easy to pinpoint, but like, how would you characterize your sound for people who haven't heard your music, if you can?
That's a great question, and you're right. I mean, my body of work is pretty diverse, and it's really large at this point. I'm 14 artist albums in. You know, I've scored close to 30 films, television shows, projects of that, and video game stuff. And then of course produced, I couldn't even count, innumerable heroes too, like people whose work that I loved as a kid, so have stepped into producer shoes in those ways. So my body of work is really diverse, but I would say really the through line, without going into kind of a deep nerd musical thing, because there's definitely some like deep nerd musical through lines to my work. But I think the through line insofar as sound is I make a really emotional electronic music. So whether it's something that's intended for dance floor, or whether it's something that's intended for, peak moment in a film, or it's the trailer to a video game, electronics are the means by which I feel most comfortable expressing myself musically. And, interestingly, I'm a classical music brat. It's not something a lot of people know about me, but I'm literally a conservatory kid. I started studying piano Suzuki when I was 4, and I went to the Washington Conservatory of Music and studied counterpoint string writing and, that sort of some music theory and performance theory training, all these kind of things, and went to Berkeley. So I have a classical musical education, and I do end up writing a lot for orchestra, especially for films, for the project that I'm doing right now. I've been working on for actually close to 3 years. I'm not supposed to talk about, can maybe guess what that is. It's 3 hours of music with big orchestra. But for those sort of things, I do write for orchestra a lot, but everything is rooted in electronics. And the why to that is I fell in love with electronic music through early English New Wave and through breakdancing culture. And as a classical music brat, I said immediately to myself, like, this is what my heroes would be using to express in, were they alive now, whether it was Debussy, Stravinsky, Rachmaninoff, Wagner, whoever, they would be using these modern tools, synthesizers. And so there was no looking back for me. So that was the longest answer I've ever given to anything, I think, probably, but I hope that made sense.
It did. And you've even invented your own techniques, like you patented stutter editing. Could you talk a little bit about what that is for those of us who aren't audio nerds?
Yeah, for sure. So as my job as a teenager, aside from mowing lawns to buy my first synths, was working as a tape op at a local studio. And so at that studio, one of the engineers taught me to splice tape, right? It's rare to even see tape machines in studios anymore, although you do see them. And he taught me how to splice tape with a razor blade and a grease pencil. And, you know, I'd have to clean up at night. And one night I had the idea, so I got to record there, you know, on off hours. So one night I had the idea to take the tape and to put the tape on the block with a razor blade and a grease pencil and measure out how long a bar of audio was at 15 inches per second, which is the tape speed, for whatever the tempo was. Say it was 120 beats per minute. I literally spooled it out on the floor and I had this crazy idea. What would happen if I took this and I cut it up in a non-contiguous fashion, right? But rhythmically, the same size pieces. So I cut it into quarters. It was my first ever stutter edit, okay? Where I cut, you know, quarter notes out of this long piece. So literally in 25% slices. And I splice it back together with leader tape and I listened to it. And it was one of the coolest things to this day I've ever heard in my entire life. And it inspired this thought vector for me that has lasted to this very moment, which is this idea of really dense, nonlinear rhythmic audio editing. And so what stutter editing is the technique that I came up with that day on the floor in a studio in Rockville, Maryland, and have been working with ever since. You know, then in the early days of samplers, then onto early days of DAWs and digital audio workstations. And it involves cutting these very fine micro slices of audio. So above normal note values. So like we normally talk about 16th notes, 8th notes, quarter notes. This is 512, 1024, 2048th notes, very close to the edge of pitch. And so I cut these things into audio. I hard cut them into audio, or did for years. And I decided I wanted to make a way to automate that technique. A lot of people started copying it from my records. It was very time intensive. And I said, I got to make this a piece of software. So started as a max patch. I performed with it for years. And then finally I sat down, opened up Xcode, and a couple 100,000 lines of code later, and a bunch of good friends, you know, sitting with me on the couch when I was supposed to be scoring movies. And we had something that Isotope, who's my partner on Stutter Edit, you know, they came to me and they said, we saw you using this. We have to put this out. Other people will love this. And that's kind of the history of Stutter Edit.
That's wild. And that was all just really, it was really through just experimentation that started, just playing and being curious. So that's a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And you even ended up starting your own software company at one point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was it. That's amazing. And how did you end up making the like the change from making music primarily for the dance floor and then moving into film scoring? Like, what was that? How'd you get connected to that world?
That's an awesome question, and it's a wild answer too. It happened very organically. A totally true story. I've told this story in some forms ages ago, but at my old house, when I had gotten my first record deal and I was kind of back and forth to England and playing all these early festivals and raves and stuff, somebody knocked on my door and they were here with their dog. To this day, I'm not really sure how they found out where I live. And this sounds like such a crazy story. And it had a VHS tape, okay? And was like, hey, I'm Doug. I'd love to show you something. I'm like, hi, Doug, do I know you? You know, sort of thing. And I there was a point of connection. I can't really remember what it was right now. He was from New York, and he was like, can I come in? I'd love to show you this. And he introduced himself. His name is Doug Lyman. Some people will know that name. I'll tell you who that is in a minute if you don't know who it is. And we sat together in my living room, and he played me parts of his film. And he said, you know, I love your music, and I would love for you to score this. And it wasn't some kind of random stalkery thing. We did have a point of connection, but it was just weird that this dude just showed up on my doorstep with his dog. So anyway, Doug's film was Go. And so it was a movie about early rave culture. And he wanted someone that was immersed in that culture to write the score for it. this for me was the most thrilling thing in the world, because I studied film composition at Berkeley and I was dying to compose for a movie. However, in Hollywood and Los Angeles, you know, when I would go and meet with people like music supervisors and people like that, they're like, oh, you're the dance music guy, right? Like, clearly you wouldn't know anything about, you know, composing for an orchestra or scoring a film or these kind of things. Yeah. And, you know, I'm like, no, I study these things. Give me a shot. Please give me a chance, you know? So Doug just knocked on my door and was like, dude, will you score my film? And I was like, yes, but this is like, you know, a divine moment. So that was my first film, was Go. And it was just, there's no looking back for me after that. It was such an awesome experience seeing your music in a film and getting to hear it in a theater with your friends and family. And I just wanted to do it my whole life. So I've done so many since then, but that was the first.
Wow. So Go was your first film, and that was just some random dude. Not so random, but
yeah, not
literally opportunity
totally
knocked on
random. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fairly random. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. If only it could be that easy every time. Well, it's not like you did nothing to get there. He knew who you were. You already had a body of work that they could recognize that you'd be able to do that. Yeah,
totally. And I mean, and there is kind of a nice lesson in there for me too, to remember to this day, is like that water seeks its own level sort of thing. You said it perfectly. Is like, there was a body of work around that attracted him to that. And so finally, I was seeking it in all these other ways, but it happened in the most frictionless, easy way, right? Like, just somebody showed up and was like, I like this stuff that you're doing. Please do it for my project. So there's a good, I need to hear that too today. It's good. I like that.
Yeah. And kind of getting back to your starting a software tech company and creating Stutter editing, like, were you always technologically inclined, or this was all like self-taught just out of necessity?
Another great question. So I am the black sheep of my family. Absolutely. Clearly, I come from a family of like doctors and academics who were absolutely horrified that their son was expressing in music. And so I grew up around really smart people. Both my parents are brilliant. My dad has a PhD in engineering, but weirdly was an FBI and DEA field agent. Weird fun facts about me. And my mom's a psychiatrist, and so I grew up around these really, really smart people. But yet I was interested in music. But because my parents were very focused on me getting a good education, especially because I was so interested in music, they made great efforts to, make sure I had access to learning about things like math, and I loved those things. And, one of the things that I think about fairly regularly is, it's funny that musicians consider themselves, so many of my music friends will say, oh, I'm not good at math. And I'm like, you're an actual, like, living or expressing mathematics in real time by what you do. Like, you are not just a mathematician that can improvise with numbers, whether it's, frequency, whether it's rhythm. It's all math. So I'm the weird music kid that loved math. And so, yeah, it started really early for me, fell in love with computers, really early days, and programming, and synthesis is a part of that too. I was very interested in how synthesizers work and what make them tick. I was taking apart things from a very early age, again, much to my parents' chagrin. You could see that I have a lot to continuously apologize about, even as an adult, to them at least. So yeah, it started really early for me, all the technology and math stuff. Absolutely, really early.
That's super cool. And so speaking of tech, like, how you mentioned that you were introduced to NFTs by Blau. Did he help you with creating your current project, or like, and also how did you, and he just introduced you to this whole world? Like, that was the first time you heard about it?
It was actually. So early days, we, I think like many other people that are, sort of emotionally invested in technology, we were aware of cryptocurrency and invested. I would say, I hear people say class of, right? So like, class of 2016, not like stupid early, but like early enough to be, to flex a little bit, I guess, whatever, we're aware of some of the cryptocurrency stuff and invested in some of those things. But it wasn't until Justin put these things on my radar, like, hey, you can tokenize the digital thing, and that can become a unique asset. Like, when he flipped that light switch for me, I started to think really differently about what's possible. So I certainly have my foot in and was aware of all these kind of blockchain technologies, at least from the sort of financial realm, but less insofar as what was possible in the arts. And so I really owe him a debt of gratitude for, I remember he sent me a text and he's like, dude, you are one of the only people that has to know about and do things with this. Like, you need to know what this is. And that text sat around for a while, and then it wasn't until a hot minute after I got it that I started to investigate it, which I'd say probably is about 18 months ago now, something like that. And then immediately started projects, and these projects are so huge. Like Genesis.json took me a full year. So, a lot of my friends were putting out their first projects, and I started to get, like really frustrated because I'm, in sort of milestone 5 of like a 7 milestone development cycle with Genesis.json. And but we crossed the finish line, and, people were so happy with it. I was so happy with how it's received, and so exciting. It's like lives forever, and people can go enjoy it for free. Pranksky owns it. Just incredible world we're living in right now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about how that project started and what was the inspiration behind that project. And it says embodying 24 hours of art and multi-channel music. It's the first digital artwork that is software, visual art, and sound living on blockchain, which is super cool.
It's a cool one, and really the way that it started was actually the inspiration for it is actually pretty simple. In that, in our house growing up, we had a grandfather clock, and as a kid, this used to drive me crazy. The thing went off every 15 minutes, and I couldn't understand why my parents, specifically my father, loved this thing so much. And so and it was his father's and his father's father's, like, it's been in our family for a long time. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized why this thing meant so much to him is because it memorializes the passage of time. And that in itself is like an act of art. Not only was it a beautiful device, but is like kind of one of the highest expressions of art, I think, is these big things that talk about permanence and origin and our time here, right? And so time being a finite resource, and between this thing of a grandfather clock and a project that I did for Disney, I wrote the music for Disney Tomorrowland in Shanghai. And it was the first time ever I'd done an installation piece where it was meant for a physical location, and it has all these intersecting loops of music. And I planned for months before I ever even wrote the music how it would interact in space and the speed of sound, literally by proxy, where you're standing. Like, I put so much thought into it because it was my first installation piece. And basically, the idea was to create a living code base that memorialized the passage of time for infinity, lives till the end of the internet, and is like an installation piece for the blockchain. So that was the bar that I set, to my friends and family's chagrin, who pretty much didn't see me while I was working on this, and set about making this crazy new piece of art, which basically, to put a bow on it, is like a very rudimentary nonlinear editor and DAW that runs from the blockchain. So yeah, that's kind of what that is.
Is that the first on-chain DAW? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we could claim that in a way, actually. Yeah, it's crazy. It's nuts, Heather. The thing is, live sequencing 15,000 audio events over a 24-hour period. So, I blocked them out. They're being amplitude faded in and out. And it's the first NFT that puts itself to sleep at night. It has a circadian cycle. So at 9 p.m., it goes into what we call night mode. At 4 a.m, it starts dreaming, and it's changing musically all throughout the day, as is the artwork. And so it was a massive feat. I'd never tried to write a 24-hour piece of music before, and we did it. So, and people love it. It's like I hear from people all the time, like, oh my gosh, I just discovered at 11:11 there's an Easter egg that plays a second of Flaming June. And I'm like, yeah, it's so cool. Hearing people discover things out of it, and it scrapes network time. So wherever you are in the world right now, it's live. You can go listen to it for free. Wherever you are in the world, it will be playing something different depending on your time zone and your network time.
That's so cool. And I saw it also changes like with the phases of the moon also.
So that's interesting you bring that up. That's an idea that I had during Genesis.json, but it wasn't until my new project, Metaverse, I was able to realize that. And we could go deep nerd on this one, but following the lunar cycle from a blockchain project, which anybody that's a programmer here will know are time agnostic, right? They're like, these are quarantined off things. And of course, you can get to some of these kind of things via an oracle, which we chose not to do. We basically had to rebuild the Mayan calendar, is like my new joke amongst friends now. But yes, this new piece follows the lunar cycle, and it's crazy.
So cool. I think that's a good time to maybe we can share the trailer that you have for
I'd love that.
For this, and then you can talk about it. All right, hold on.
Sweet.
Imagine a world where the music of the past becomes the music of the future, refined. Imagine a world where 200,000 lines of code breathe digital life into 11 new compositions, each of which evolve day, night, and during the lunar cycle. Imagine a living software engine that evolves over time, that at its core is a series of cryptographic mysteries waiting for fans to unlock its secrets, rewarded with ultra-rare one-of-one NFTs. Imagine a universe where Python scripts morph 11 songs into physical fine art sculptures imbued with NFC tags that bind the song and sculpture to its digital equivalent NFT. Imagine, if you will, in this world, all these things are wrapped in a beautiful box with bespoke, numbered, handmade white vinyl. Imagine no longer. It's almost here. Universal.
Wow. Everything
cranked.
Is
Every time I see it, I get cranked.
The art is amazing too. Can you say who the artists were who collaborated on that?
Absolutely. I mean, and the list is long. There are some incredible artists that have participated in this. So the artists that did the NFTs are named David Gao and Cloudum. Cloudum is a Ukrainian artist, now living in Scotland. David Gao is an amazing Houdini artist that works on movie trailers and things like that. Both of these guys, I found their work, loved what they do. And, you mentioned the rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, they're these guys are so deserving, and they're people that I want people to see their artwork. So again, their names are David Gow and Casper Cloudham. They're incredible artists. The artwork for the album cover was created by a graphic novelist artist. They actually LiDAR scanned my face. It was the craziest experience. So cool. His name is Eric Kalinquist, and he's this incredible graphic novel artist. We did sculptures, which is mentioned in the trailer. The artists that, yeah, they're so cool, Heather. The artist that worked on that is named Andy Anderson, and I actually wrote a Python script for all 11 of the songs on this project. It's actually 33. I'll tell you about that in a second. So, but I wrote a Python script for every one of them. I did a fast Fourier transform analysis of the audio waveforms. So like a 3D sort of sound analysis of the waveforms. I took them and, shaped them and reconfigured them, made them into CAD files. And then Andy Anderson is his name. He's an incredible sculptor. He's done Larona's Boys stuff. He did the Boys sculpture. I love her work. She's so great. But at any rate, he did the sculptures for. Will you pass me one of the sculptures, Lace? So this right here, there's one of these in the world. I don't know how well you can see this, but this object is actually it's the 11th song on the album, and this right here on the bottom of it is a tag. It says the Blue Hour. That tag on the base of it is actually an NFC tag, and made by a company called Suku. And so you can literally tap your phone to these 11 physical objects. There will only ever be 11 of them. And it connects to its Ethereum mainnet token NFT. It's that sculpture is on the blockchain. There's like crazy stuff that we did for this. So, cool. I guess, it really zoomed out. This project is called Metaversal, and it's a new type of album. It's what I imagine and want to see as an album, as a fan of albums now in the time we're living in. So it's my 14th artist album, and I'd say more than anything, it's an experience, not a record. So it's built around a 200,000 line of code NFT that lives on the blockchain. And it's imagined from the ground up as this programmatic musical experience. So there's this engine that's tokenized, has beautiful audio reactive art in it that adapts. It plays different in day mode. It plays different at nighttime, wherever you are in the world. And like I mentioned, every full moon, the entire album and artwork changes in this programmatic engine. And then it's a collection of these beautiful physical fine art sculptures of the songs themselves. So the actual media itself, like the tokenized program, we have beautiful vinyl box sets. I have one of them here somewhere. I'll grab it and show you in a sec. And a bunch of other things, like the number one slot in this tiered auction comes with a Lago frame, which are these beautiful, huge wall-hanging NFT frames. So actually comes with something to hang on your wall. So it's crazy. So and I haven't gotten to the coolest part yet. So all of those things and all of this media are created around an 11 slot tiered auction on Origin Protocol that starts tomorrow for collectors. And the number one thing being this 200,000 line of code, programmatic living piece of art on a Lago frame, vinyl sculptures, all this crazy stuff. And then the coolest thing about this engine, though, is I wanted to design a way that my fans that are maybe not into crypto or decentralization, dApps, Web 3.0, all this stuff, I wanted to find a way for them to engage in a meaningful way with what is a pretty futuristic project. So I made the entire code base engine is actually a cryptographic treasure hunt. So there's 3 ways that you can sequence this album in the engine. And we're like starting tomorrow, my Twitter feed is going to be like, sounds like a 90s thriller. Like I've done like these crazy voices. There's insane videos with all of these ciphers and riddles that lead to one of three things, which is a way to sequence the album live in this actual application that fans will be able to get to. Is totally free. You can go there, listen to the album starting tomorrow. It will be there forever, which is crazy. And you have to do nothing other than go and enjoy it. And if you want to do this treasure hunt, here's what you're going to do. So the people will watch all these ciphers and riddles, and it will lead them to one of three ways to sequence the album. If they get it right, which is hard, not impossible, it's hard, I'm not going to lie. If you get it right and you hit the enter key in the record, plus the correct sequence of songs and modes, day, night, or lunar, it unlocks Web 3.0 connectivity. You connect your MetaMask, and it will airdrop you one of 33 one-of-one totally rare NFTs. And then when the thing is done, it disconnects. And then it's just a living piece of art. So it's crazy. It's a crazy project.
And that's for the person who holds the one of one. They get these if they get that Easter egg, or that's anyone of the 11 people.
Anyone. The person that holds the one of one actually owns the program itself, as well as, you know, these beautiful NFTs that David Gao and Casper Cloudham made of the songs, and they're going to get their pick of the litter, their favorite one of the sculptures, and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, it's tiered, so there's different kind of rewards in each one of the tiers. But the it's really two things. So it's, you know, this tiered auction, and then it's also a treasure hunt for fans, and they can win things with absolutely nothing. Like, they can just play it and get, I can't wait to see some fans get their first NFTs that have been like, oh, BT, I don't know about this crypto thing. We get these, you know, messages, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, dude, I got my first piece of digital art. I got a MetaMask. I understand what that is, or a Porter's wallet or whatever. And so it's a really fun way for me to kind of, I know it's not the exact right terminology, but you'll know what I mean, like orange pill my audience, right? So like to show them how wonderful and cool this entire new world of Web3 is.
Yeah. And this is a really clever, and like, it's such a deep and vast project too. So what has been like the most challenging aspect of getting this done, and how did you work through it?
Oh boy, that's a good question. So honestly, the most challenging aspect of this has really been to design what I think is a really exciting Easter egg hunt for everyone, because my fans are so freaking smart. And so I want it to be that anybody can play it, but I also wanted it to be challenging enough so that part of like kind of, you know, stemming parts of it, and kind of like a directory tree so someone can't sweep an entire tier, like that part of basically protecting against different types of exploits and attack vectors, honestly, for someone, you know, that would say, oh, I'm going to grab all of this tier of NFT, like thinking about that part of it and designing like a treasure hunt that was fun for fans. That was really hard. Making the sculptures, I have to say, was quite literally next to impossible. We ended up making them 3 times, and they were painted by 2 different people. And when I did those Python scripts, there were parts of it that it was as thin as a filament of human hair. And so Andy, the sculptor that did it, he was like, dude, some of this stuff's got to be adjusted, but keeping the kind of artistic integrity of the pieces that you made, that was really hard. And then the code base itself was serious heavy lifting. I mean, it's 200,000 lines of React.js, 3.js, there's Juice, there's C++. I mean, it's like a beast of an engine. So building that was a humongous project. And, you know, my favorite saying to put a bow on all of this, what I hope more than anything is this music makes people really, really happy, like really, truly happy. And I hope that playing this game / you know, treasure hunt is really, really fun and exposes some of my fan base and other people to what is so important about blockchain technology as it relates to the arts. And kind of finally, I hope that this inspires my peers many of whom have felt really lost over the last year and a half during the pandemic, to think of what's possible with music, and to stop listening to that voice from the legacy music industry that says is so kind of doom and gloom and streaming and all this kind of thing. We are entering into this emergent space where anything you can dream up is possible. And so I just hope that this project serves as a source of inspiration for our community and for my peers more than anything. So that's Metaversal in a nutshell. It's been a labor of love for sure.
Yeah, and I hear you on this being like a call for other creatives to use this as a tool to be inspired, and that it's a whole new world. If they've been feeling, rightfully so, if they've been feeling defeated about this pandemic and what it's done for the entertainment industry. I think it's a really positive place. It's just you have to find your people. And you also did a release, The Art of Longing, where you mentioned that if anything positive is to come from a situation of the world collectively finding itself in, it's my great hope speed, instant gratification, and overstimulation are swapped out for longing, imagination, and relational connection. That was you.
That's nice. I don't remember saying that, but I feel it in my bones. It's it's wild how we kind of, as a society, the world at large, hit the pause button. And I think it's a lot of it's been really hard. I mean, we've lost people that we love. We've seen really close friends struggle with their work, especially in the electronic music community, which is so dependent on performance. So, we have friends that are these A-list DJs that have been, really struggling. Right. And so, and the flip side of that coin is I think that it really has made all of us reevaluate the things that are important to us. And during this time, like at this exact right moment, this incredible emergent space became explosive, just went vertical. And I want my peers to know that this is not some fad, and there will be, bull and bear markets in that side of the space, right? But this is a way to free artists, absolutely, to do what they love, to make a living wage doing it, to find their community, like you said, Heather, of like these really niche down audiences that just love this certain sound or this certain kind of art or whatever it is. And that there's reciprocity in the community, which is totally unlike the music business, right? There's this not just feeling of ownership from fans, there's actual reciprocity, in whatever it is, social tokens, DAWs, NFTs, all these things that we're all exploring and creating right now. So this is an incredible time to be alive. It really is. And like I said, I hope this really provides inspiration for and a lot of joy for my fans, for the community, and for my peers that are musicians.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And just to say one more thing about the NFT itself, or these NFTs itself, they're releasing on you said Coinbase, or they're dropping
the NFTs themselves come out on Origin Protocol.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all. And it starts tomorrow. It's a tiered auction on Origin Protocol. I actually think that site might be live in a bit.
NFT.bt music, which I'll share in the chat. If they go there, they can sign up to access the auction, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So for the tiered auction, you can go to Origin Protocol and sign up there. And for people that just want to enjoy the album, it's going to be this living software engine is minted right now, and it will be made live. It's crazy now because OpenSea accepts iframes. So like you're actually going to be able to see it, not an MP4 representation of it, even on a place like OpenSea, which is going to be so cool. I mean, that's blowing my mind. We'll post links to the engine. You'll be able to go listen to a different album dates nighttime, full lunar cycle, enjoy all the art. And if you want, participate in the treasure hunt and win some free NFTs. So, I can't wait to walk everybody through this. It's going to be like a lot of fun. It's like a super fun treasure hunt.
I'm so excited. We got a lot of questions from our stream text chat. So do you mind answering a couple before?
I would love to. Yeah, please. Yeah, ask me anything.
Okay, so I'm just asking them in order that I received them. So it might be random. But this is a question from Subspace. Will the blockchain ownership strategies that he's advocating, and I agree with, will they be the end of privately run corporations? Good exchange in the chat. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's it. I thought they were saying that. That's it.
Yeah, well,
will that's privately run corporations.
Yeah, that's a really big question, Heather. And I don't know that we're looking at kind of the dissolution, right? Like tearing it all down sort of thing. But I will say that I think a lot of these, particularly, so I'll just talk about the arts, that the legacy media outlets are going to have to adapt to this, or they will be culled. Like there will be an inflection point moment where they will adapt to this, or they will go away, because it puts so much power in the creator's hand, and creative power more than anything. Like that's the important part of it I want to focus on, is both the power to reach an audience, right, with unbeholden to press junkets and whatever, these kind of traditional mechanics of releasing media, or barriers to entry, like a gallery curator, right? It's just audience, artist. Okay, let's do something cool, right? And we all kind of share in this, right? So I think that they'll have to adapt, or they will go away. But I don't think they're all going to go away. I think that there's a lot of really good actors in these spaces, whether it's in the film industry, in the game industry, in the music industry. We hear a lot of the doom and gloom and the bad, and there's a lot of it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, but there's some really good people too. And it just so happens a lot of those good people are forward thinking, and I can see them adapting and thinking of what's a record label if it's a DAW, right? What's a management company if it's a DAW? What's an artist if it's a collection of social tokens and joint ownership with their community? Like asking these really big questions. So I think they'll adapt is my answer.
Yeah, I agree. They're gonna have to, or they'll fail.
You're right. That's right.
Another question from Mongoose is, well, they asked, did you ever write any chamber music? But I think you have. And what's your favorite instrument outside of piano or electronics? They want to know.
Well, both of those are easy. So yeah, I've been doing soprano, alto, tenor, bass writing, like, contrapuntal writing literally since I was a kid. So quartet and quintet writing. And I've written a lot, many of which I'm not sure I'd be proud of, because I was writing those when I was like 8 or 9, quite literally. But of course, I write for orchestra all the time. We were just in Nashville for about a month ago, recording 120-piece orchestra. It was thrilling. There's nothing like standing there with a baton and listening to, these people that have studied their whole life play music that you came out of your heart. It's an unbelievable experience. So you plus one on the chamber music. And then my favorite instrument is actually the one instrument that I can't play at all, right? Like I really can't play, but it's my favorite instrument, which is the cello. So I just am in awe of that sound. Is just like the sound of longing, the cello. It's my favorite instrument on the planet.
It really is the sound of longing. That's a great characterization of it. I don't know why I like that sound so much, but that makes sense.
It just pushes all the feels buttons. You know what I mean?
So Subspace asks, Don Dorsey, Main Street Electrical Parade, Baroque Hoedown. Do you love him? Any of your own work reproduce classical music as electronic?
So I'm actually not familiar with his stuff. I'm definitely gonna check it out. And insofar as like the kind of classical and electronic stuff, that's the line I've been riding sort of since the beginning, you know, really. And now there's kind of a name for it. Like when I scored the Fast and Furious, you know, people were like, what the hell is this score? This is crazy, because it's like orchestral, you know, the percussion is car parts. I literally used car wrecks to do percussion for it, and then crazy gnarly breakbeat stuff, some drum and bass stuff in that as well. And so that's the line I've been riding from the beginning with the film scoring stuff, certainly. So yes.
So the Cryptery asks, speaking of teenagers, what would be your advice for kids who want to start doing what you do?
I love that. So my advice for kids that are interested in expressing through music, are interested in blockchain technologies and all these kind of things, is I would do two things. I would never stop learning. So have an insatiable appetite for learning, and talk to yourself about being teachable, right? Like, you want to be around people that are smarter than you all the time, and you want to be learning all the time. And so some of those things can happen in school. Some of them can't happen in school. So I would, and this is my second bit of advice, I would look for someone that can really actually mentor you. So, and when I say actually mentor, I mean, you know, over the last 15 or 20 years, there are, at any given time, there are always about, because this is sort of the bandwidth I have to actually do this, there are about 2 or 3 people, often, you know, young people we might meet at a show or something like that, where I am actually counseling them and giving them advice, right? So not just like, oh, hey, have you tried this sidechain compressor? Like, hey, you need to understand what a layer 2 solution is. Do you know how to pay your taxes quarterly? Like this kind of stuff, right? And so I think for a young person that wants to be in music, be teachable, and find a great mentor, that would be my biggest advice.
Absolutely. Getting direct support is so helpful, and when you don't have it as an artist, it can be really a lonely experience. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have another question from Rune. There are a myriad of audio editing applications. What application would you suggest someone learn and to use and master when they are just beginning?
That's an awesome question. So 2 of the real kind of entry level DAWs, but that people end up going on to make incredible records in, are Fruity Loops and Ableton Live. Those are the 2 DAWs I think that for a beginner is an incredible starting place. It's sort of like snowboarding, those 2 DAWs. Like you can get really good at them quick, and then that level of mastery, that last little bit, is the part that takes a hot minute. But those would be my 2 recommends, would be Ableton Live and ImageLine FL Studio are really great things to learn in. I'm kind of DAW agnostic. I use a lot of different ones for different applications. I use Cubase, I use Logic, I use all these legacy computer systems, a lot of different things. But insofar as starting, Ableton, FL Studio, learn those. You'll be good.
All right, you heard it here. Ableton and FL Studio, and Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
Let me see if I get. Oh, Mangu Samar asks, "Do you ever use modular synths?" I don't see any back there.
I'm going to turn my camera. Hang on a second.
Do you have like a whole wall of them?
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, did I kill my camera? Hang on, stand by.
Oh. Technical difficulties.
There it is.
Oh, I guess you can't actually see them. Oh, okay.
You see my wife, Lacey, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Lacey's showing us the modular synth.
Welcome.
So, yes. Love modular stuff. It's the best. I have to say that, you know, the whole modular paradigm these days is probably one of the most exciting things that's happened in synthesis in years, the Eurorack thing, because you said something before, Heather, I loved so much about exploration. about the kind of just joy of discovery. And the modular synths are like, I don't care how much you know about synthesis. Anybody that tells you they sit down in a modular synthesizer and they're like, I'm going to make a song like this is absolutely lying to you. No one, no one knows what the hell they're doing when they sit down at one, no matter how much you know about synthesis. And you constantly discover these interesting pockets of sound that are just magical. It's a unicorn instrument, the new modular stuff, Eurorack stuff, all that.
That's so cool. My dad just started messing around with modular synths, and whenever I come over, I like to play with them. And I'm like, it's just like you're like a mad scientist, and you don't even know what's gonna happen. It's so cool.
That's awesome. I love it.
So just a handful more questions. Someone Mongoose asked, what happens when all 11 sculptures are in the same room?
Well, Mongoose, I never had that thought until you just proposed it, but I suppose that's possible. I have to say, it's going to be sad to let go of them. Like I've gotten, will you pass me the one for memory serves? I've gotten so attached to these. These like sat in the studio with me. This is one of my favorite ones. This is the very last song in the album. I don't know if you can see that. It's so pretty, this one. And it has these crazy NFC tags on the bottom of it. But I'm gonna miss them so much, Mongoose. So if they do go all to one other home, I would be happy, because then I feel like I have some chance of getting to see them, or I can like Zoom. It's like sharing a pet with someone or something. You know what I mean? But I'd never considered that until you asked that question.
And the last question I've got from our chat is from Talon. They ask, do you see the NFT software you're working on now becoming licensed software in the future that other artists will leverage, like similar to Stutter Edit?
That is such an amazing question. And it's when I did Genesis.json, it's something a lot of people approached me and said, hey, can I do a piece using that engine? So I would say that these first kind of two explorations, both Genesis.json and Metaversal, are I see it as like I've kind of built this code repository, and I never really considered that until, it's same as with Stutter Edit. It was by necessity. Like I was doing this technique, right? There was no commercially available software to do it. And I had to make a tool so I could compositionally, use this technique with expediency, like not in this like crazy time intensive way that it was for years. And so there might be a similar sort of thing happening there. I think that's a really astute question. I think that there's a possibility at a point that all of this software that I'm developing for blockchain projects kind of codifies into something that is able to be repurposed and used by other artists, but it would be some play in some future place, that would happen just because I am doing so much exploration right now. I mean, I'm parallel threading all these crazy projects. People aren't going to believe some of the stuff that I've been working on. You'll see over the next, 8 to 10 months. And so it's a great question, though. I think it's possible, to answer your question. I think it's possible.
That was going to be my next question is, before we go, are there any upcoming projects or drops or events that we need to know about?
There's a bunch of stuff coming up, yes, for sure. And I'm like NDA'd to myself. I'm probably like, I can't even think of what I'm allowed to talk about at this point. I will say that an exciting one for music peeps that they're gonna love is there's a project I've been working on for 3 years. It's 3.5 hours of music, and it's actually, so I just wrote the music for this project. I've given away a little bit there. And that's going to happen, way late into next year, but it's such a beautiful body of music. I'm really excited for people to be able to hear that. But yeah, there's so many blockchain projects that I've been parallel threading. And so you're going to see more from me very, very soon. I'm going to take a break after this for like a hot minute. We're going to go walk our dog up in Maine, and then I'm back in Xcode Ableton, Cubase, Modular synths, all of it. I'm back up in it.
Yeah, I don't know when you sleep. These projects you're working on are massive and take so much thought and energy. It's amazing that you had the time and energy to come and speak with us today, and we're very appreciative of your time and energy. So thank you.
I appreciate you so much, Heather. Honestly, like if every interview could be like this, all I would do is interviews. I'm not even kidding. You asked me such thoughtful questions, and the audience questions were incredible too. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this so much. I love this community. It's such a rad bunch of creators. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And yeah, I appreciate the thoughtful questions. I appreciate your time. It was really fun.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful and wishing you all a magical day. We'll be back later with Tom Morello and Peter Moorbacher at 6 p.m. ET. So come back soon. And thank you again, Brian. Bye.
Bye. See you around.